welcome back. We're heading to New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm very excited about this episode. I've been here a few times. I've got a good group of people that I know here, but I've never actually gotten to spend much time in the city. Tonight, we're gonna go check out a gig a friend of mine is doing, Charlie Halloran. He's playing with a group. He said it's a really, really good vibe, so that's where we're heading. What are we waiting for? I have to drive there, but you don't. Let's go.
Charlie Halloran here, trombone player, tailgate style in New Orleans.
Yeah, and where are you from?
I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, and then you went to Eastman?
I went to Eastman for 2 years and then came here as soon as I could, 2008.
What's it like being a transplant, playing the music of the people here,
Right.
and like learning all of that?
Right.
Because I've always felt like this isn't my music, you know? Like, how do you do it justice?
That's fair. That's fair. No, I grew up listening to this music. My dad is a fan of Louis Armstrong and Preservation Hall. So those were the records I was hearing as a kid, and they were the records that my dad bought in the 60s.
Yeah.
My dad snuck in to see Louis Armstrong play in like 1963.
Really?
In St. Louis.
Whoa.
Yeah, so this is the music I grew up listening to, even though I'm not from here.
Preservation Hall. Now that's where you'll find all the greats. And when I was a teenager, the ones that are still alive, that's where they're playing now.
But you're absolutely right that this isn't the music I grew up playing. I mean, I moved here to play this style of music. Mm-hmm. Generally, it's been a very accepting community here.
Yeah, I've certainly felt that.
And if you come in and just show your willingness to learn and to treat the music with respect, the people welcome you with open arms. In my experience, for the most part, you know, you gotta pay your dues, of course. But but if you put the music first and come in, it's a very sweet scene by and large.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I felt. I've been here for a couple days, and everyone's like, "Well, come play. Like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know what I'm doing."
What I didn't expect is that there is a bunch of people. I'm 24 when I moved here. That there was a bunch of people my age here, because I didn't get that impression because everybody I knew was 15, 20 years older than me at least.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get too.
So, So that was the surprise when I got here.
There's a bunch of young.
There's also people. A bunch of 24-year-old people who are into New Orleans, traditional New Orleans jazz, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the surprise. Thank goodness, I love it.
Yeah.
No, it's cool here. So like I'm able to, like what you saw tonight, I'm able to play traditional jazz that's kind of in the style of, you know, Preservation Hall or like late 50s Bourbon Street. And I like doing all of that.
So how does your approach change depending on that, like, style change?
There is a definite difference, and you know, if you nerd out about it too much. But if you go back, way back, early New Orleans trombone playing, you're talking about Kid Ory.
Sure.
But like the same time that Kid Ory is playing, Miff Mole is playing in Chicago, and that's super articulated. That's whole register of the horn. That's wild leaps. That's more advanced harmony. And then a couple years after Miff Mole, you get Jack Teagarden, who's playing as much horn as J.J. Johnson, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I love J.J. Johnson. I love Jack Teagarden. Jack Teagarden's all over the place. So I don't know what to say, like, what is traditional jazz trombone? Is it Charlie Green and Kid Ory?
Right.
Is it Jack Teagarden?
Yeah.
Those are complete opposite sides of the coin. So,
So do you know what is expected of you when you show up to a gig?
I kind of, in general, I know like what the rhythm section likes or what the band leader likes.
Sure.
The guys I work with. And there's definitely some in the repertoire. It's like, you know, if this is a song that Kid Ory's famous for playing.
I see.
Teagarden's famous for playing.
So,
Insert.
for example, the Spotted Cat gig.
Yeah.
What was your role as the trombone player?
That's a 2-horn band that you saw with Machia Lake the other night.
Yeah.
So when it's a 2-horn band and there's not a clarinet, if it's trombone and trumpet, I lean into more of the role of the clarinet, which in trombone terms for me has always meant trying to play more like Jack Teagarden. So that's more trills and turns and more notey and more mellifluous and playing over the horn more. When there's 3 horns and they're kind of laying into that New Orleans style, that's when I can get into the Gutbucket stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
What does that mean?
So that's, you're right.
I was gonna say but
but I don't know what you're talking about.
Gutbucket.
You know, like
I really feel like I should just go with it, but like what?
the tailgate style, right? Like Kid Ory or those early trombone players on the back of the truck using the slide off the back of the tailgate. You know, like taking up physical space with the slide. When there's 3 horns, everyone's doing their job. Trumpet player playing a pretty straight melody, clarinet player outlining the harmony. Then the trombone is really more of, trombones in that setting is in a section with the rhythm section.
I see.
Not the horn section as much.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to outline the bass.
Doing a lot of bass,
and playing more articulations and just kind of be the drummer, split the difference between the drummer and the bass.
So I thought we should check out one of the solos that Charlie did that night and really dig into the theory behind it and everything. But first, just enjoy it and listen. This is his chorus on Up a Lazy River.
I used to go a lot.
So what makes this sound more like New Orleans jazz instead of like bebop or classical music for that matter? Like what is it about this that makes it sound like this? For me, the 2 biggest factors are simplicity and time. So for time, I'm talking about when you listen to where Charlie is playing these notes, within the phrase, the tuba, which is acting as the bass, and the drums are locking in right where the tempo is, and he's playing after it basically every single time. So that super, super relaxed style of swing is just so much New Orleans. And the other side is simplicity, not necessarily the melodies that he's playing. Some of them are very complicated, but the chords behind them. This style of music is based in a tradition of singable songs and not a lot of chord changes, very bluesy, these kinds of things, rather than bebop, which the chords change every, beat or 2 beats. These, sometimes the chords change every 4 measures. And so it's very interesting to think about because as an improviser, and many of you will understand this, when you start out, when you have chords changing every 2 beats or so, it's really intimidating, right? Trying to keep up and figure out what notes are in each of those chords and what notes you can play. And then when you get a little bit further on, and honestly where I am now, what's more intimidating is having fewer chord changes, because when the chords are changing, you can find those leading tones and you know what you're supposed to be playing. But if the chord's not changing for a few measures, what are the leadings? Like what do you play? Well, let's find out. I'm going to release a full version of this breakdown over on Patreon. You don't have to pay anything to be a member. I would love it if you did, but just come on over, hit join as a member for free, and you'll get access to this full breakdown. I'm going to do some quick highlights of it right now, but if you want the full thing, just go over, totally free. All right, so let's get into it. We've got this opening. One of the first things I like to do when I'm breaking down a score or anything like this is really get it down to its basics. Like, what is the melody here? Is it... Well, no, there's a lot of extra in there. So let's take out the little grace notes. Well, is that the melody? We can still take out more. Really, what the melody here is... Right? So that whole intro, like what notes are being played over this D7? What is the melody? And to me, it would just be... Right? It's super... This is what I'm talking about. Simplicity. It starts there. And then everything else is embellishment. And with Jack Teagarden and this whole style, it's all about embellishment of the very simple thing. So, over the D7, A, C, C. He's playing the 7 right off the bat. The most interesting note to be played in a 7th chord. There you go. So, it's a half note. So, what's being embellished on those half notes? The melody is just those half notes. Well, it's a little forte piano crescendo and a slide vibrato. Even with that, there's a little bit of spice happening. And then that next measure, there's so much happening. It's just... So that's going from the 9 down to the 8, or the 2 to the 1, right? In a D7. So 2, 1, 2, 1. And how is this being embellished? Well, in 2 different ways. So we can literally see kind of a little masterclass just in the second measure, the different ways you can embellish the same thing, which is this. So the first way he's showing us is just a little down, up, down. Great. And the second way is leading up to it. And so that's our first accidental. And it's the G sharp leading up to the A. Every single one of these non-chord tones, they're called, right? Something that isn't in the scale that this chord is based on. Every single one of them in this style of music is going to lead somewhere. Just is. And so with this one, it's leading up to the A, which is the 5th of the D7 chord. So everything really makes sense. So all of those are embellishing this very simple melody, right? Just E, D, E, D. What is the third? Is it a major third or a minor third? So if we're in the key of F, which we are, is this an A natural or an A flat? That makes a big, big difference. Well, in this style of music, it is absolutely ambiguous. It is somewhere in between. I mean, listen to this. Is it... Or is it... It's neither. It's right in between. And so that is going to happen all over. It's really weird to notate. It's weird to write. It's one of the reasons this style of music is very much passed down through the generations and through playing it and less through writing it. And then a quick 2-octave jump, because why not? Spoken almost. Whap! It's like an argument. What? Really playful stuff like that. A lot of times in improvisation, you're looking for those notes that aren't obvious, that aren't being played by the bass, you know, that aren't the 5th because it doesn't really add any color. So you're looking for the 3rd or the 7th or the 9th. Again, just pull it back to what the melody is actually spelling out. We have... So 9 to 7, again, looking for those money notes that add flavor. And then leading up to the 3rd. So these are all the money notes. If you had to pick them in that order, it's that order. 9, 7, 3. And then we're at this root F. It feels very, very much like we're done. We're here, we've arrived, because it's finally the resolution of this chord progression going to the F. Okay, and you could end it there. You could end it right there. We've finished. We're at the F, and I played the root, and it's over, and my solo is done. But
The park is closed.
oh, so you could be done, but you have to lead back to the next solo, which is a D7 chord. So what do? And adding a little lip trill at the end, because of course, why not send it off with a little bit of flair as well. When we get up to improvise and we're just starting out, or we're a student, we feel like we have to play the most impressive thing ever. We have to impress ourselves, do the most fast, high, loud thing we've ever done. And then at a certain point, hopefully, we get to a point where we're not thinking about what would be impressive, we're thinking about what the music needs, right? What would this song sound like with this melody on top would be a better pursuit. And that's easier said than done, especially with the social dynamics of a band, of an audience. And in New Orleans, it really felt like even at a bar gig in the middle of the night, the audience was with the musicians in pursuit of the music rather than of ego.
It's really a part of the culture here still.
Yeah.
In a way that I never experienced it anywhere else I've lived. Like everyone here has a baseline knowledge of New Orleans music that is higher.
Sure.
Than
You just
than
expect
other
it.
cities. Yeah, totally.
Where can people find you, should you wish to be found?
I'm on Instagram, Mr. Charlie Biggs,
Charlie Biggs.
and Facebook and all that.
And if you come to New Orleans, hey.
I'll be out there. Yeah, come say hello.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Right on.
So I'm heading over to the Jazz Playhouse. We're gonna go check out Big Sam's gig. I've been here once before, and it's a party. I've met a lot of trombone players in my day, and nobody does it quite like Big Sam. You may remember him from my video where we made the Addams Family theme funky. If you're ever in New Orleans on a Wednesday, do yourself a favor, go to a show at the Jazz Playhouse. You'll thank me later. So there you have it, just a sliver of what New Orleans has to offer. And this was just on a random weekday in January. So thanks for coming along. Thank you to the Patreon donors for making all these videos possible. If you want to help out, go to patreon.com/classicaltrombone, and you don't even have to pay for it. If you just sign up as a member, you'll get access to the full breakdown of Charlie's solo. Thank you to Charlie. You could also check out his full extended interview, link in the description below. Thank you to Big Sam for always having me play when I'm in town. Make sure you're subscribed and notified, and I'll see y'all real soon someplace else.